Hey guys, Wicked here. So today I have a special type of videos for you guys, and today I'm going to be going over the tips and tricks and as well as some game mechanics that you should definitely keep in mind, and as well as the loadout that is best for Scout class in Battlefield 1. So these tips and tricks and other information, if you keep this in mind during when you're sniping, I can pretty much guarantee that you'll become a much better sniper and also instantly improve. So just keep this in mind, and hopefully this improves your sniping abilities a lot. But anyways, without further ado, let's just get right into it. So the first rule, I think, is a golden rule, the most important rule. Definitely keep this in mind, not only for Scout class, but it works for pretty much every single other class, is stay calm. So this kind of ties in with the next one, but what this pretty much means is if you miss a shot, or maybe you get a body shot but you don't get the kill, don't get angry at yourself, because most of the time if you get angry you get distracted, and if you're distracted you're going to miss most of your shots. So just don't get angry or distracted, because if you do, you're just gonna keep on missing, and then probably just gonna get angrier and more distracted. So it's just like a domino effect. And if you do find yourself getting angry, just either I like to become a different class, so like maybe I become support and calm down a bit before I go back to being a scout. So this, as I said before, ties in with the next one. Don't chase after people. So let's say you get that body shot and you get 90 damage. Resist the urge to go downstairs and like let's say you're in a building, resist the urge to go downstairs and kill him, because most of the time it ends up with you going after him in like a wild goose chase, and it ends up with you being dead, because most of the time the guy that you're chasing just leads you to his teammates. So you're just gonna get wrecked, probably gonna die. Just don't do it. Even if you have the automatic go, you think you're gonna wreck him because the other guy is scout, just don't do it. Third thing is stand still while you're sniping, because you get an access bonus, which leads to more accuracy. So that just, stand still. That being said, make sure you don't stand still when you're not shooting. So for example, you're reloading, or maybe you're pulling back the bolt for another shot. Either duck behind cover, or if you don't have cover, just move left and right. So A and D on keyboard, pretty sure one of the analog sticks on console. So just keep it in mind, just, either stand still when you're shooting, and don't stand still when you're not. Next up is aim for the body, not head, if you know that you can't get the headshot. Headshot is always preferable, because it can pretty much kill the enemy. If you get a headshot, even if they have 100 damage, it will always kill them, no matter what range. If they're close, if they have 1 health, if they have 100 health, it doesn't matter. The only time that you're not going to kill them is if you shoot at one of those sentries. So just keep that in mind. If you know that you can't get at the headshot, just aim for the body shot, because you might as well get that 90 damage, and you might be able to get assist kind of skill. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you aim at the body if you know you can't aim for the head. And even when you're just like starting off, just aim for the body, because you want to make sure that you get your precision and your accuracy a bit, like, a little bit at a time, and not just all at once to the head. Next up is be aware of your surroundings. I can't even count how many times I've seen snipers face the wrong way. They're faced towards their team and not towards the enemy team. It's just completely dumb. Just make sure you're always aware of your surroundings. Like, for example, look at the minimap. The minimap is actually one of the most important tools that a sniper has, because it tells you all of the positions of enemy soldiers as well as vehicles, and the flags that your team has and flags that your team doesn't have. So if you find yourself facing flag that your team has, just turn around and try to face the other way to a flag that your team doesn't have, so you might, help out your team a bit more. Last tip and trick, or tip, tip or trick, is don't do long range sniping. I personally don't like to do long range sniping. Some people might actually prefer it, but I don't, because you actually have to counter for the bullet drop and bullet velocity, which is a game mechanic that I'm going to be going over in a couple of seconds. So what bullet drop and velocity is if you shoot long range, the bullet is pretty much just going to drop, and the bullet is also going to take some time to get to the target. So make sure that you always aim a bit higher when you're doing long range sniping, and if the target's moving, make sure you lead your shot. So this is we've pretty much entered the game mechanics. So next up, the next game mechanic is sweet spot. So what the sweet spot is it's a range, and you can actually look at your sweet spot. For example, if you go to the one of the guns here, for example, I am in the SME Mark III Marksman. As you can see here, this is meters, and at the tippy top here, so you have around like 50, or maybe it's a bit closer to maybe 50 or 60, I'm not sure. Oh, whoops. So it's a bit closer to 60 actually, so I think it might be around 60, and then you see it ends at around maybe 100, I'm not sure, but this is pretty much where you can, this is 100 damage. So for example, if you get a sweet spot hit in the upper chest, you will pretty much down them when you're around 50 to 100 meters away. So how do you tell how far away you are from enemies? Well, this is pretty easy. When you're in Conquest, you just look at one of the points. For example, maybe look at A point or B point, pretty much the flag that's closest to the target, and you just estimate how far you are. If you don't know how to read this, maybe like I had a pretty hard time between 50 and 60, I'm still not sure, you can go check out a website that I'll leave a link to below in the description. So go check out the website, and it will have the damage, drop, and all of that, sweet spot, all of that for all of the guns in Scout class for Battlefield 1. Moving on, we have suppression. So suppression is when someone shoots at you and your screen edge goes really dark. So that's how you know that you're being suppressed. And the best thing to do is get behind cover, and either I like to reload, or maybe drop down a flare downrange, or maybe even throw a grenade. That's what I like to do. You're free to just sit there doing nothing, do it for like 5 seconds, but I just don't like to waste time. So what suppression is it's a game mechanic where you have way more bullet sway, and you also have bullet deviation. So with the scope sway, the scope sway is when your scope goes in an infinity pattern around the screen, so it's really hard to wrestle that crosshair in between the head of the enemy. And also you have bullet deviation, which means that your bullet won't actually go down the crosshair, it might actually go away from the crosshair. So it's pretty much impossible to get a shot, even a body shot, when you're being suppressed. So the best thing to do is just to duck behind cover. Now moving on, guns, scopes, and crosshairs. So first of all, let's start off with the cross reticle. I like the cross. You might like something like the beam, or maybe even the post, or maybe even the chevron. I personally don't like the post because you have no lateral checks, and for beam, I just think the space in the middle is a bit too much. Chevron, I just don't like. I just, yeah, don't like it. No explanation at all. And cross is my favorite because you have no gap at all in between the lateral and the horizontal. Or, not the lateral, the horizontal and the vertical. So a cross reticle is pretty much just like a beam, except you have the post that's continuing past the beam part, or the horizontal part, I mean, and you have no gap, as I mentioned before. So now this leads to the next question: what magnification do you have? That is 3.5x, because I just personally like it, because if it's too close up to your enemy, sure, you can see your enemy, but it's kind of hard to account for that bullet drop and bullet velocity, so you want to make sure that's further away from the target, and if it's too far away and you can't see him, well, then there's really no point. And finally, bayonet or no bayonet. I just personally like to have the bayonet equipped, because if I don't, then well, I mean, I kind of mostly use it for getting out of sticky situations fast. You might actually not use it for that, or you might, I guess, melee attacks as well. But if you find yourself not using it, make sure you always remove it by doing that, because it does, I think, remove some of your accuracy, and yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just accuracy. So that's pretty much it in terms of the settings or modification. Now, you might notice that there's trench, sniper, infantry, and marksman, and experimental as well, and carbine. So what these are the modifications of the gun. Unlike in Call of Duty Black Ops 3, you can't, modify it in any way. So instead, you have all of these different names at the end. So what marksman means is it can pretty much be magnified from 2.5x to 4.5x. That's pretty much it in terms of marksman. What the sniper is if it can be magnified from 5x to 10x, increasing by 1x each time, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and then it becomes 2x. Yeah. And then finally, what infantry is and trench is you get the iron sights. So that is, you can magnify it from 1.25 to 2.0x magnification. Now you also have a carbine, which is pretty much just like marksman, except you have kind of like a mix between the marksman and the, if you've used the MP18 optical, I'm pretty sure it's pretty much like a cross between those two, except you can't fire as fast. I'm just talking about the scope. And finally, you might wonder what in the world is the optical, not the optical, the experimental. The experimental is, it was actually an actual thing. It fired pistol ammunition instead of the normal sniper rifle ammunition. So you do less damage, but rate of fire is pretty high. As you can see, 51 and 450. So you also have 41 rounds per magazine. And what this pretty much is it's pretty much like a pistol on steroids, pretty much. So just think of it that way, except is your primary. This was actually a thing way back when. It was called the Peterson device. It was made by the US, but sadly I don't think it was ever used. Yeah, just some history for you guys there. Now moving on, we have sidearms. So I personally like to use a PO8 pistol in mid-range combat and really close mid-range combat, and then I like to use it from or stop in really close range combat, so like in maps like Amiens when it's all really tight spaces. And finally, for long range sniping, I like to use the or is automatic to accompany the primary. So that's pretty much it in terms of guns and scout class and for this guide. So make sure you leave a like if this helped, and just keep in mind all of these tactics, you know, the tips and tricks, and I'm sure you're going to become a much better player. And make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and comment below if you have your own tips and tricks that you want to share with me and the other people watching this video. That would be great if you could share it around, the tips and tricks, or maybe you made up your own, whatever. And finally, if you know anyone that is struggling to play Scout class in Battlefield 1, just give it a quick share, and I'm sure that hopefully they'll improve just like you did. So thanks for watching again, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So see ya guys later. Bye.